All right, we are live. Good evening, friends. Welcome to episode 22 of the Career Shifts podcast. I'm your host, Gopal, and I'm thrilled to have you all with us today. For those joining us for the first time, Career Shifts is a podcast dedicated to exploring inspiring journeys of individuals who have successfully navigated to significant career transitions. Whether it is moving between industries, overcoming obstacles, embracing new challenges, each episode thus far has been packed with stories and insights to help you reflect on your own career path. And to our regular listeners, you know the depth and the value of these conversations bring, and today is no exception. You're in surely for a treat. As always, I want to kick off this episode with a story. Earlier this week, I was scrolling through my phone and I stumbled upon a picture of my dad's promotion letter. It brought back a flood of memories about his career, his dedication. My dad, I have spoken about this in the past episodes as well, but as you all know, he was a true career loyalist. He worked for Automobile Products of India Limited for almost 42 years. Back in the 60s and 70s, careers were built on stability, loyalty, and commitment to stay with one company throughout professional lives. But everything shifted in the 90s when India opened its door for foreign companies in the liberalized economy. The change brought in a wave of growth, new opportunities for those who were ready to seize them. My guest today is someone whose career has been deeply influenced by this transformation. When you look at careers over the last 3 decades, some big changes stand out. Number one, fluidity over stability. Back then, career paths were predictable and linear. Today, it's a different story. Careers now require fluidity, agility, and adaptability, qualities that help you pivot and thrive as new challenges emerge. Number two, impacts of global shifts. Today's careers are impacted heavily because of economic changes, global politics, and many more things. Thriving now means having a global outlook, understanding how these shifts affect your industry and your role, balancing change with stability. We live in a world that demands us to embrace constant change while we are still maintaining stability for ourselves and those around us. It is a mindset that embraces innovation but also knows when to stay grounded. Legacy redefined. For my dad's generation, legacy was about tenure, how many years you spent in one place. Today, it's about impact. It's not about how long you stay, but the difference you make and the inspiration you leave behind. So, in summary, lessons from two generations is extremely fascinating. My dad's era navigated careers without modern tools like GPS, relying truly on intuition, grit, and experience. Today, we have access to information, mentors, networks, and career navigation is much easier. But even with these tools, the timeless values of resilience and loyalty are as important as ever. Today, I'm excited to introduce you someone who has experienced these shifts firsthand and thrived in those environments as well. Jagdish Kini. Over the past 3 decades, he's seen it all and will share pivotal moments that shaped him as a leader. Welcome, Jagdish. How are you doing today?
Good evening, Gopal. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Such a pleasure.
Wonderful. I know there is a lot that we would want to talk about careers, leadership, journeys, multi generational workforces. But before we get into all of that, do you have any opening thoughts and remarks for the audience that is listening in live, or perhaps even people who would listen to this later?
You know, I just the other day, I think it was yesterday morning, I was talking to my wife, and then in the evening, we met some friends in the same age group. And we
Okay.
were saying that as a generation,
Hmm.
perhaps, perhaps, no other generation can see or will ever witness the kind of change
Hmm.
that we have seen.
Yeah.
Going back to the 50s when we were born to the 24 to 2024, the kind of change that we have gone, and you know I come from the telecom industry. My last job was with the telecom industry, And whenever I've been called to speak, uh,
Mm.
my starting line about telecom and the change that was there was, as a kid, when my father applied for a telecom, a telephone connection. We were in Bombay at that time, and it took us 14 years to
Wow.
get a telephone connection. And we got the connection in the 14th year simply because my older sister graduated as a doctor and she could write her name as Dr. Mananda Kini, MBBS. And we actually got the category of the phone changed from OYT, which is your telephone, to
Mm.
a doctor's quota. So
Mm.
it was fast tracked to in the 14th year, thanks to my sister getting the degree behind her name. And when we got into telecom, and I remember where we had some complaints where people said, I bought this telephone 3 hours ago and I still not got my connection. That's the kind of change.
Oh goodness, yes.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
welcome
kind
to
of
2024.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. No, interesting how lives have evolved. And I still remember, at least I did not have the, I would say, opportunity to see the rotary phones. The first phone that we got was a button phone, the Beetle
Uh-huh.
version. And I still remember, yeah, we had to wait for quite a long time as well. And um, the trunk call era, as we all remember, as I mean, forget the STD or ISD, it used to be trunk call. You had to book a call to speak to your own relatives um, in other states. And we used to stay in a suburb in Mumbai, which is Dombivli. Calling Bombay would require a different dial code. And from there to where we are today is, I would say, yeah, it's been a journey.
Oh, yes. Oh,
uh,
yes.
yeah. So wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I think it's been incredible to have people and leaders like yourselves share your journeys with us, because the whole purpose with which I started this podcast was to give back to the community and share stories of reinvention, as I call it. And I'm sure there is a lot reinvention that has happened in the past and a lot more that happens today as we speak as well. And stories stick, and that's why we are bringing these episodes. So thank you for joining us,
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Jagdish. There are a lot of audience members who may know you really well. There are members who may not know enough and more about you as well. So if you could walk us through where it all started, and what do you do today? So if you can just walk us through your journey.
Well, it takes a long time to talk about it, but yeah, it's your program is career shifts,
Mm,
and I have been shifting.
mm,
Initially, I was forced to shift. Uh, you
sure.
know, and a lot of it is because I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, and
Mm,
then moved to a stage where I began to architect my shifts.
mm,
And I started actually willfully going in for changes and going in
mm,
for the shifts that I wanted.
mm,
But to start, I began to understand uh,
mm,
ambition, aspiration, career uh, as something as a when I was about 10 years old, and it was uh,
wow.
uh, it was the Indo-Pak War, 1965, and in Bombay we were all taught how to. Uh, there was a drill which was done, and we were all going through the drills. When the siren goes, what you need to do, and stuff like that. And one such evening that day, at about 4 in the evening, there was a dogfight between two of our planes and one Paki plane, as was told to me by a senior person looking at it, and we were all looking at it. So I believe he knew what he was talking about.
Sure.
So when I
Sure.
saw that our planes, two, I think they were Nats, chasing this plane of Pakistan plane. Uh, I don't know, something, inside me told me I would like to be in that plane. And I
Mm.
chased that dream for many years. And every time I was asked, or whatever it was, I always knew that I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Mm.
And came the NDA exam, and I didn't make it.
Mm.
I had some eye problem, and my coordination
Mm.
between sound and light and stuff like that was just not working. And I was
Mm.
offered other than a fighter pilot stuff, and I said no. I'm not keen on any other stream. It's just the fighter pilot. And they didn't give me a second chance. They said, no, sir, if in that case, we can't accept you. So
Mm.
there was the first time I had to shift and by force.
Sure.
My sister was studying medicine at that time. So my father, he cajoled me into thinking about medicine as a career.
Mm.
I didn't make it again. I didn't make the grade.
Sure.
So there went another of those dreams.
Mm.
This way, what happened at that stage was uh, sports came to my help. And I remember I was running for my school in the Bombay Athletics, and
Mm.
in one of the races I fell, and I didn't. By the time I got up from the track, the race was almost over.
Mm.
So I gave it up,
Oh,
and
okay.
and I stepped out of the track, and my coach or sports teacher or whoever you want to call him. Those days we
Mm.
didn't have coaches; we just had teachers, and he was Mr.
Yes.
Andrade.
PT
Mr. Andrade
teachers.
came and he held my
Mm.
head in his big palm that way. And he said,
Mm.
Jagdish, I didn't ask you to win the race. I asked you to run and represent the school. You know,
Wow.
remember one thing,
Wow.
Jagdish. Remember one thing in life. Complete what you have started. It's very important to finish what you have started. And when I failed in my NDA and my medicine and all that, I realized that, though not my choice, but life was given to me and I have to complete it. So
Mm.
again, I learned this thing about this attitude of get up and finish the race.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I
Mm.
started doing that, and I started again looking and dreaming. I finished my
Mm.
graduation. Luckily for me,
Mm.
my father, he gave me 10 rupees every day and said, go look for a job. So for 30 days, I would be on the road visiting companies and with CVs which were handwritten. There were no photocopies that time, so we had to make copies which were handwritten copies. And I would then go from door to door and look for a job. End of that first month, on the 30th day, I got a job with Siemens,
Mm.
and it was a commercial trainee's job. And very soon I realized that though I got in through the written test and interviews and other stuff, I realized that being not being a commerce graduate, a commercial
Mm.
trainee's job was not ideal for me. You know,
Mm.
I had done my graduation in pure sciences, physics and chemistry, and this wasn't
Sure.
really ideal. And I was looking at how do I manage my career forward. And I met a friend there called Srinivas who joined Siemens on the same day as me, and he told me
Mm.
about IIMs, and I started trying to understand what IIMs are all about. And there were three that time: IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Calcutta. And
Yes.
I would appear for the written test. I would pass the written test, come to the group discussion, get completely smashed in the group discussion, because every group discussion all those 2 3 years was St. Stephens versus IIT. So if you're a non-Stephens and a non-IIT in that group, you're finished. You won't be able to say a word. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, what was expected? I mean, I got thrown out. Then finally, after three and a
Mm.
half years of working in Siemens, I made it to Symbiosis. And
Mm.
from there onwards, somehow I learned many things many different things, especially to adjust myself and to accept whatever the
Mm.
conditions are, and to start maneuvering and you're adjusting your own abilities to suit the situation and to make
Sure.
yourself ready for it. And since joining SIBM, I have achieved almost every goal of mine. And I feel good uh, when I look back, saying that, yes, you know, after my MBA, I joined Procter and Gamble. I worked with them for 9 years. I MBA, I majored in finance because of my experience in Siemens, saying that,
Siemens,
and
yeah.
I knew that, if I have to be my aspiration was that time to be an MD of an organization. So I said, if I want to be an effective MD, I need to understand finance. Marketing is something that would come naturally to most of us, but
Yeah.
finance is something where you need to put in effort. So I
Yeah.
tried to major in finance, gave some exams, passed it hopefully, luckily, and then joined Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble
Sure.
again was a great experience. I was there for about 9 years. The first 4.5, 5 years I was in finance, and in those 5 years I worked in different departments in finance. Thanks to my
Mm.
boss, I've been very lucky with bosses. I'm very lucky with bosses, whether it was Siemens or it was Procter and Gamble or any other company that I worked with. And at that stage, Gurcharan Das was actually talking about building a leadership bench. And he said one of
Mm.
the ways to build a leadership bench is to have job rotation. You know, you have to move away from your mother function to another function. And then if you want to get back, you can get back. And he was
Right.
waiting for people to raise their hands. And I raised my hand. So the next 4 or 5 years, I worked in brand and sales.
Mm.
When I was working with them for those 9 years, for me, it was preparing myself for that ultimate job that I was very looking for. So those 9 years, I actually didn't get any promotion. So today, when
Wow.
people look at batch parity and stuff like that, uh,
Mm.
I was very way behind my batchmates, because in those 9 years, I think I got one promotion. You know,
Mm.
and I knew that if you're changing your job every 1.5 years, though it's within the same company, your bosses are changing, so there's no way you can get a promotion.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
you know, and after that, life has been, on a roller coaster, a fast lane, full of achievements. L'Oreal came into the country. Uh, Somehow we met, and they asked me to join them.
Mm.
Got the opportunity to set up L'Oreal in India. Uh,
Mm.
got the opportunity to actually build a team there, and learned a lot about building teams, learned a lot about setting up organizations. It was,
Mm.
that experience of being an entrepreneur without having to put your own money was satisfied in L'Oreal. I was with L'Oreal for about 7 8 years. Uh, I At that stage I spent about 15 months at INSEAD doing my general
Mm.
management program. It was sponsored by L'Oreal. I then left them to become the managing director for Gillette in India. Uh,
Sure.
at that stage, the mid 40 blues hit me. Uh, I wanted to I asked myself, and I couldn't sleep at night, says, what is the impact I'm having? And the answer which was coming was, my family is doing well, my company is doing well, my team is doing well, uh, stakeholders are doing well, Wall Street Journal is doing well, and Dalal Street is doing well. And question
Yeah.
was, can I sleep at night? And I wanted to do something better. And they said
Mm.
that we have this uh, RAC, the reticular activation system in our brain. And they say
Mm.
that when you activate your RAC and you're really focused on wanting to do something, the universe comes to help you. And I think
Yes.
when I was thinking like that, the universe came to help me. And uh, from out of the blue, I got a phone call from some unknown person and said that Mr. Sunil Mittal would like to meet me. And initially I was reluctant, but then I went to have a cup of tea with him. I was very impressed with his vision. At that stage, Airtel was only in Delhi and in
Mm,
Haryana, I think, one of the smaller states besides Delhi.
mm,
And Airtel was really looking at acquisition of JTM in the south, which had the
mm,
license of Karnataka, Andhra, and Punjab. And I joined them as a managing director for that company. And then we merged it with Bharti Airtel, and I became the executive director and CEO for Bharti Airtel. I had the second goal of quitting industry at 50. Uh, a lot of people ask
yeah.
me why 50. My wife also asked me why 50. Well, there are various reasons for it, but I quit industry at 50. Tried to do some very different things. Acted in one or two plays and tried to learn something different. And realized that for me to be mentally agile and active mentally, I had to go back to industry. I started a consulting firm. Within 4 to 5 years, we were doing very well. We were about 14 people in the company, but we were back to working 12 hours a day or 13 hours a day.
Mm, mm,
And that was not
mm,
the reason why I wanted to set up a consulting firm. I was really looking for a balance in life. So I
mm,
wound up. No, I can't say wound up. I reduced the activities in the company, stopped doing strategic consulting, and trained myself to become an executive coach. And the last, 13, 14 years, I've been coaching CXOs and CEOs. I've been doing some workshops, playing a lot with my grandchildren, spending time with the family. Uh, I think life is very, very, very balanced at the moment. Uh, the happiness quotient is very high, uh,
right.
and it's great to just give back when you feel like, when you have the time, and in the ways you feel like. So I keep doing
Yeah.
that in different ways.
Yeah. No, wonderful. I think a lot of what you said, there were some amazing reflections that I had as well. Like I had the opportunity to meet, uh, perhaps not meet, but he was, Mr. Gurcharan Das was there as a speaker in one of the forums that I was attending. And I was just, I would say amazed by the way he brings in the entire perspectives to life. So that's one. Secondly, of course, the whole journey that you took, from be it Siemens to SIBM to how you moved to Procter and Gamble, L'Oreal. When we were talking this morning, you mentioned about how the L'Oreal journey happened,
Mhm.
and it was very interesting that you touched upon that. um, I'm looking at this more from a perspective of how, there's another thing that you said about how when you manifest things, things happen. Perhaps uh, this could have been a result of that. But do you want to walk us through that journey, and also of the mentor aspect of having a mentor in life? How does that work? So if you could just touch upon those two elements.
You know, you talked about manifestation, and every job of mine has been manifested some way or the other. I've never applied for a job. All my four
Wow.
jobs were, and I've never sent in an application.
Mm,
You brought up this thing about L'Oreal. It's very funny how you know the universe comes together to identify for you your opportunity and your growth stories. And I was on a flight. I think it was Bombay to Delhi, and there was
mm,
this gentleman sitting next to me, and it was summertime, and we were going to Delhi, and Delhi is hot, and
yes.
he was wearing a suit, and he was an international personality. You can make it out. So I said, sir, you're wearing a suit and you're going to Delhi. You know, I'm not aware
Mm,
if you are aware that the temperature in Delhi can be really high, and it can be really, really, hot. So
mm,
we started chatting, and then he said, I asked him, what brings you to uh, India. And he said, I've come here to understand the FMCG market. And I said,
Mm.
when you say FMCG, what kind of products are you really talking about? And he was talking about perfumes and uh, you know uh, hair care products and skin care products and this kind of care products and stuff like that. And I said I'm working with Procter and Gamble, and I gave him a download of whatever little I knew about the industry at that point of time.
Wow.
And in the end, as we all Indians do, and especially when we are young, we like to keep flashing our business cards.
Business cards.
And I gave him my business card, and I think about 6 or 8 months later,
Mm.
I got a call from him,
Mm.
and it was a voice on the other side, and he said, "Jagdish, Jean Michel." I said, "Sir, Jean Michel from where?" So he says, "You remember the man in the beige suit going to Delhi, hot weather, in the same plane with you?" I said, "Yes, sir, I
Mm.
remember." He says, "Oh, I'm in Bombay. I'm at the
Mm.
Sheraton. How about joining me for a glass of wine in the evening?"
Mm.
So I said, "Yes, sir. I'll see you at about 7." I went to Sheraton, met him. We had 2 glasses of wine, not one. It was very
Mm.
expensive wine and very good wine. So I enjoyed it. And then he offered me the job of starting L'Oreal in India.
Wow. Mm.
And I hardly knew about L'Oreal. I came home and I called my sister in the US. Like you said, the PP calls, person to person call. So
Yes.
I booked a call, waited for the call, got the call after 2, 3 hours, spoke to my
Uh,
sister in the US, and I told her, "Have you heard of this company called L'Oreal?" You know,
mm.
People, the audience may not know, but those days we didn't have internet and stuff like that. So our
Yeah.
awareness levels were very low compared to the children
Mm.
of today.
Correct.
And she said, "Oh, they make some fantastic products." And I said, "What kind of products are you using at the moment?" And she gave me a whole list of the kind of products she was using. Uh, and I said, being a doctor, her sense of quality has to be, on the very high side. So I believed that L'Oreal was a great company, though he explained to me
Mm.
that they were $12 billion and all that. I then began, and then the next day I met him and I told him, and he offered me the job, but I was apprehensive. You know,
Mm.
I had a very steady job. That safety net bolo, safety valve bolo,
Yes.
jo bhi hai, you feel good that you're working with Procter and Gamble, and you have an equation with your people in the company, with your friends,
So good.
with your family, being proud that you're working with Procter and Gamble, and your own safety net with the company and your career with the company.
Mm.
And here I was talking about moving to a company which I don't know, and is not in the country. We don't know about the company in the country at all. So I was apprehensive. So you know, I decided to meet my friend's father.
Mm.
Girish Rangan used to be a batch. He's a batchmate of mine from
Sure.
SIBM, and his
Symbiote. Yeah.
father at that stage was the CHRO for Colgate Palmolive. So I called up Girish and I told him, "Girish, I'm coming home in the evening. I want to meet Uncle. What time does Uncle come home and all that?" So I went to his house. They were living in Prabha Devi, that area. So I went
Mm.
to their
Mm.
house and I met Uncle, and I started speaking to him, and he was listening, 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 uh, and he was a very well-known HR personality in that, very well, people used to look up to him and all that, and he was like an idol for a lot of people. And
Mm.
I asked him, and then he said, "Jagdish, what's your real concern or worry? What are you really worried about?" So I said, "Uncle, I'm worried that I'll mess this up opportunity, and if I mess it up, my career is gone." And then he looked at me and he says, What do people think about your leadership style?
Mm.
And I was that time in sales in Procter and Gamble.
Mm.
I said, Uncle, my team, I was area manager for Bombay, Maharashtra. So I had
Mm.
quite a big team because Maharashtra and Bombay and Maharashtra was a big chunk of the sales. And I said, well, Uncle, they really think I'm a very good leader. Uh,
Mm.
but I don't think that way because we are really doing very basic stuff. So
Yeah.
he said, what is the basic stuff? So I tried to tell him about how we try and keep a discipline about starting uh, at the time that we are supposed to start in the morning. We have this thing about FJP, which is frozen journey plans. We always stuck to our plans, whatever was the plan, and what we had decided for the month, we would stick to it. We would keep a track of the targets on a daily basis, stuff like that.
Mm.
So I said, this is very basic stuff, and because of that, we are doing pretty okay. We are on about 105% of our target.
Mm.
So he says, Jagdish, you know, that is not very basic stuff. That is leadership. He said, we all know leadership is all about keeping it simple and doing the basic stuff right. But we all know this cognitively, but we don't do it. So he said, and you seem to be having a doubt of your own ability. And sometimes it is good to test your ability.
Yeah.
And then he looked at me and he says, my advice to you is take up this job and you will know whether you're a good leader or not. He says, others may not be interested in knowing whether you are a good leader or not. I think you need to understand whether you're a good leader or not. And those words
Incredible.
really struck me, and I joined L'Oreal. And well, as they say, the rest is history. Got me the opportunity to handpick a team. I remember picking the first probably 100 or 150 people that worked in L'Oreal. And
Mm.
people whom I picked up as to join the company and be a part of the growth story. Two of them, one of them today is the regional leader, regional head for, I think they call it AMI plus something else. It's about maybe about 25, 30 countries, and
Sure.
he is the head of L'Oreal for these 25 countries. He's one of the guys I had picked up in '94 from the institute. Another person whom I had picked up as a sales officer uh, is today the managing director for L'Oreal in India. So when I look at these careers, you know, people talk about spotting talent. I, I, I think talent is in abundance. I
Mm.
think we have to give opportunity for people to express themselves. You know, I mean, the same kind of opportunities were given to a whole lot of people in that company. Some of them left and
Very true.
became successful in other companies. Some of them stayed with L'Oreal and became successful in L'Oreal. So I think we've got to really let people express themselves, be themselves, and develop to become a better version of themselves. And as a leader, my job was to create that environment. And I think we
Mm.
we did a pretty decent job at L'Oreal. Today, L'Oreal is a huge company.
Yeah.
When I go back to the office sometimes and I look at how it is grown, I mean, there's a
Mm.
sense of pride in having started this company called L'Oreal in India.
Incredible. I think there is a lot of, I mean, when you're trying to build something from scratch, it gives you immense, you know, reflections and of having been there, done that.
Mm.
I just was in Ahmedabad a couple of weeks ago, and I started the School of Public Policy out there at IIM Ahmedabad. And when I went there back, you know, a lot of people were like, "Oh." fantastic to see you. And when you see the school in front of you, it gives you a lot of memories, right? So I completely understand what you're sharing. Jagdish, I want to quickly transition to the aspects of building an organization, and also the kind of leaders that we have seen evolve over the last few decades. And if you look at it from a current organizational context standpoint, you will see leaders kind of having very different set of challenges than perhaps what was there in the past. You now today are an executive coach yourself for the last 14 years and speak to a lot of these leaders, C-suite leaders yourselves. What is it that you're hearing, and what are the struggles that they are sharing with you, and what do you think are the reasons that are triggering those challenges? And is it that business dynamics have changed so much, or is it more to do with how the evolution of management is as well?
I think there's a combination of a lot of stuff there. People, I mean, leaders whom I've coached, uh, whom I interact with, I find one of the biggest struggle is managing the youth.
Mm,
They somehow need to understand the youth better,
mm,
you know. And the youth have their own issues.
mm,
The youth have their major strengths, you know.
mm,
But I think leaders need to focus on their strengths
mm.
rather than trying to get them into a so-called mold which we believe is the right thing. You know,
Correct.
uh, of course, one thing which I've commented quite a bit on LinkedIn is on this work from home thing. There is enough on that, but leaders need to understand that if the youth want to work from home, how do we make sure we are productive? You know,
Yeah.
and it's not without where the leaders have a doubt, perhaps, that they're not fully productive when they're at home, but they're not able to, or they don't wish to table that issue.
Yeah.
You know, and the youth don't want to accept that there are major strengths in working together as a team, being together as a team. You know,
Yeah.
the youth want to be aloof,
Mm,
but the leadership want them around. And the experience of the leadership is having achieved through teamwork.
mm.
And the youth say that I can do this alone. And it's an ideological fight. So we
Yeah.
need to come in between somewhere and start saying how we can work together.
Correct.
And I've very often said to people that let the youth become, uh, you know, what do they call them? Where they are freelancers. There's a particular word
Mm.
for that. I don't
Gig
remember.
workers.
Gig workers.
Gig workers.
Yeah. So let them become gig workers, but the youth don't want to become gig workers. They want the safety net of a salary.
Mm,
Now, when I talk to the youth in my coffee with Kini, I keep telling
mm.
them, there's no best of everything that you can get. There is no free lunch. So if you want a particular thing, you will get it if you're willing to accept a few things which others want. It's it's a relationship, it's a
True.
contract you have with the organization. So if it's a contract, while you can put what you want, they can put
Mm,
what they want in that contract.
mm,
And if you don't
mm.
want to agree to that, you don't sign it. Now, once you sign it, those terms apply to both of you. And
Right.
that is what I think is a major issue in today's uh, gig economy. And I think another thing is, uh, there's a hurry to achieve. Uh, and there is a peer
Instinct.
pressure. There's a peer pressure.
Yeah.
Peer pressure is, you know, in India, we've got the entrepreneurial spirit, and the whole industry is moving, and we have all these huge companies coming up, and going in for IPOs and all that, and everybody wants to become an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And I've supported quite a few entrepreneurs in the past, being on their board at times, or being mentoring them and stuff like that. And I've seen enough people joining these startups only because they want to learn
Mm.
and find out what is their idea to start their own entrepreneurial journey. Now,
Mm.
you don't, when you come with that kind of a mindset, you're not really giving your best. And you'll never be able to give
True.
your best, because you're always looking at what's in it for me. What do I want to learn? And they believe that if they keep changing their job, uh, they will learn a lot more. Yeah, exposure does give you a lot more, but you can get that kind of exposure in the same company.
Yeah.
You can be with a company for at least 5 to 6 years. First of all, you learn from that company, then you give back to that company. I think
Mm.
leaders also must understand that if you invest in the long term, and here I'm talking of long term, is investing in people to build a leadership bench.
Mm.
If you invest in that completely and with complete belief and faith, your short term goals, which is your annualized goals, will be taken care of.
Mm.
It's a concept which is not easy to uh, readily take up and say yes, it will work.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do micromanagement, and say no, you don't know, and do it my way. They want to be a controller, they want to be a super
Mm.
achiever, but they don't allow the team members to become super achievers by themselves. So I think,
True.
at least in Airtel, I perhaps was a micromanager earlier. In Airtel, I decided to change a lot of my leadership style, because I got the opportunity to introspect hell of a lot. Uh, because all the job was being done by the others, so I had enough time on my hand to introspect. And I realized that it is my behavior which is coming in the way of people's development and work.
True.
And
Mm.
unless I change my behavior, it will not happen. Second, I realized that if I believe in their capabilities, for
Mm.
which I've recruited them, then I must allow them the space to do it. I cannot say I believe in your capabilities, but do it my way.
Yeah.
That doesn't work,
Yeah.
because there's a
Yeah.
conflict. So I used to tell my teams in Airtel that I actually work only for 1 week or 10 days in a whole year.
Mm.
And that was the
Mm.
budget, where I would really get into great depths with the budgets for each circle.
Mm.
But once the budgets were fixed, I allowed them to have their own strategies and perform. I
Mm.
remember some of them saying that, review meetings with you, Mr. Kini, is a pleasure. I said, I believed that review meetings are always a pain, yeah. And they said, no, with you, when you come for the reviews, we are always learning. You help
Mm.
us understand strategies differently. Though it is our strategy, you begin to help us understand our strategies even better. And for us, the review meetings we look forward to. I said, wow. But if you start beginning to believe in people's ability
Yeah.
and capability, a lot can be achieved. A lot can be achieved.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know whether I've answered your question, but I've tried that.
No. I mean, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of great points in there. So then, if we were to really look at three generations of people today, um, and depending on how people see, I think I would say struggle is there in all three generations specifically. One is people who
Yeah.
are entering the workforce. They lack clarity. They lack, you know, navigation within how to build my career within the organization. People who are in mid careers, their struggle is again typically, as you said, the mid career syndrome that hits everybody. And perhaps this decade has been very unique in many ways for a lot of people. It comes with its own opportunities as well. Um, and then there are these people who are in mid 50s or early 60s who are also trying to be relevant by doing whatever they are doing. Um, if there is any piece of advice that you would like to give to these three generations, what would that be? And what could be done differently by them?
I think one thing that all the generations and every one of us needs to have is an open mind.
Mm.
I think as a child we've all been very curious,
Mm.
but as we grow up, we
We kill the
begin to get
curiosity.
yeah, we kill the curiosity and we begin to say this is how it is done.
Mm.
I think that curiosity, that inquisitive mind, asking the questions every time, uh, is there a better way to do it, is
Mm.
something that we all need to be learning, unlearning and learning, relearning, I would
Mm.
say.
Mm.
We need to have a hunger and an appetite for uh, knowledge and the courage to step out of the comfort zone.
Mm.
I think that appetite for knowledge is not only at a cognitive level.
Sure.
Otherwise you read a book and you start saying, yeah, 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 I now know. I find some of the younger generation, uh, it happened to me in Airtel once or twice in small things, small doses. They would get a certificate course done on the net, and then they would flash that certificate and say, I need a promotion.
Mm.
Just because you've done a course uh, should give you a promotion. I mean, that connectivity I couldn't adjust to, and I try to
Sure.
explain to a lot of these people that promotions come with vacancies and with that ability that you need to be able to handle. And there's a role and responsibility that you need to get when you get a promotion. Promotion is
Absolutely.
not just a change in grade, it's a change in your
Mm.
roles and responsibility. And for that, there needs to be vacancies as well, you know. So, but they don't agree with that. They believe that if I have done this course, it should be of use to you and the company, and therefore I need to be first promoted, and then I will deliver what is to be delivered. So those are those
Yeah.
priorities in life, which is a mismatch. There's no alignment between my needs and the company needs, and I think
Mm.
that alignment in the team, that alignment needs to come, and I think I would put the responsibility for that on the leader. The leader has to be able to bring in that alignment, so therefore
Sure.
communication becomes very, very important.
Mm.
We I in my entire career, I've had a value system which I picked up from Gurcharan Das,
Mm.
and uh, I found it so simple yet so powerful, and it was like a value system of just three things. The first is, he had said, and which I adopted very, very strongly in my career, was it's the customer who decides what we as an organization will do. So listen to the
Very
customer.
true.
So therefore, listen to the customer.
Mm.
Two was innovation, and innovation was simply asking the question why, questioning status quo. Is there a better way to do it? And three was the primacy of the individual. So if you look at these three things, all through my career, whatever decisions I took, I would go back to this value system of mine to check whether
Mm.
I'm on track or not. And I think each leader and each person who's starting his career should and can and must have a value system to which they join the dots with every experience of this. And
Mm.
if they can
Mm.
do that, they will find consistency, which is something which is needed in our careers, in our
True.
behaviors, in our thinking processes. We need to be, sort of uh, uh, consistent in our approach. I would say that Indian leaders perhaps don't invest in themselves enough
Mm.
in terms of time, in terms of learning, in terms of experiencing. We do more of the same,
Mm.
and we expect better results. And I think unless the input changes, the output cannot change. And for
Absolutely.
input to change, you need to be uh, experiencing new skills, new uh, ways of working, new ways of thinking. You know,
Mm.
I have this thing about thinking right versus thinking easy. I think in India we love to think easy. It comes very natural to us.
Sure.
Thinking right is requires uh, exercising the prefrontal brain, which means
Mm.
energy is required. There's effort to be put in. So thinking easy is always avoided. So thinking easy is something which comes easy, and thinking right is avoided. So I think
Mm.
uh, when people who are in the mid career crisis or mid career
Mm.
decisions they need to take, I think uh, look for a coach. A coach is. I wish I had a coach when I was in industry. Those days, coaches were not around. We didn't know
Mm.
what coaching is. Uh, but if you get a coach, you will have a mirror, an
Mm.
honest mirror where you can actually challenge yourself. You can start thinking different. You can start thinking deeper. And I think that's really what is important. And I think, again, leaders are not tested enough.
Yeah.
And we need this, what I call, often referred to as the OMG moments. You know, and unless you get these OMG moments, uh, a leader is not tested. You need to be tested. And when you are tested and you come out uh, good in those tests, or fairly good, I mean, it's not right to say that we all come out excellent in all these OMG tests. But even if you feel good about what you have done, the confidence in your ability, confidence in self, confidence in your self belief is so high that you will be able to delegate better and be a better team player. And I think these are things which, perhaps, I mean, there are many other things, but what comes to my
Sure.
mind is these are some of the things that probably could help.
Sure. Sure. No, I like the aspect of what you said on leaders don't invest enough in themselves. And in fact, I wrote about this a couple of days ago. In fact, got really great traction on that blog as well, as to our learners losing interest. That was a
Mhm.
topic, and we are at the Netflix moment of learning, perhaps. Like our learning facilitators also reimagining learning as well. Um, but one of the comments, interesting comments that I got was, where is the time? We spend so much time in traffic. You know, we spend 3 5 hours of travel time to work. Uske baad, we don't have time to sit and invest any time in learning. Very common, and especially if you're in Bangalore, you don't need to justify that further. But in fact, what has happened in the recent, and thanks to COVID, thanks to a lot of these podcast revolution, is the format of learning has also changed. A lot of learning today happens on mediums like, I mean, perhaps podcasts, perhaps short blogs, books, and people just need to also learners also need to start thinking and consuming content, knowledge differently, and which probably is the need of the hour as well. So thank you for bringing that out. I think lifelong learning is a mindset that we need to bring out, no matter which stage of your life or career you are in. And you couldn't have shared it better than that. Um, I want to quickly also touch upon a very important aspect of your life and journey of career, which is the book, the authoring. journey. How did that happen? And what was the motivation for you to write that book? And also, um, any reflections on that, if you can.
I became a coach way back, and one of the reasons, which is valid even today,
Mm.
is to help others make better mistakes and not the same mistakes that I did.
True.
So I started coaching, and I realized, I mean, I kept my rate for coaching very, very low, very low, compared to what the industry was talking about. And you won't believe I didn't get a single client.
Wow.
You know,
Well,
it
I
was
know
as
where.
though
Yeah.
corporates felt at this rate, I mean, this guy is not even a coach. So I began to explore, and I realized taking a price increase gave me some clients. I
Mm.
took a even bigger price increase, I got even bigger clients.
Interesting.
Very interesting. But that took me away from wanting to share, wanting to
Correct.
reach more people. So I started Coffee with Kini, which is a free program. Then I started
Mm.
Take Charge, which is where they pay for the hotel room and or the walk the uh, conference room and the lunch. They don't pay me
Mm.
anything. That's another of the
Mm.
format, which is a 1 day format. Coffee with Kini is a 3 hour program. So I started doing these kind of stuff. And again,
Mm.
I realized that the reach was not much.
Mm.
Uh, you know, Getting people to come was not easy. Uh,
Sure.
Getting people to invest in themselves is not easy. So I then found this as as an opportunity to share my thoughts through a book,
Mm.
and I started thinking about it. It took me 3.5 or 4 years, and the book was still in bits and pieces in my laptop.
Mm.
It was nowhere near a book. And
Sure.
then again, manifestation has to come in the help me out. I met somebody who is a book coach.
Mm.
He is based in Australia, and I engaged him as my book coach. And I think about 17 months later, my book was published.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So again, it's something to reach people, but I don't know how many people have read it. Uh,
Mm.
and when I have my workshops, I give a copy to everybody who's
Sure.
attending the workshop. Uh, I don't know whether they read it, whether they read it afterwards or before. But if you read it, I'm sure you'll be able to relate to a lot of issues that I faced and which you're currently facing. Because the issues that I faced in my career and the issues that people face in their careers today, I don't think are very different.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
There are times when a company comes to me and says, we want you to be an advisor or a consultant and stuff like that, which I generally say no, because I don't want to get back to consulting. But I listen to them, and I try and do
Sure.
a workshop for them called on design thinking, and I then get them to brainstorm and collect about 100 plus ideas, and then we do 5 or 6 ideas. We do prototypes, and then I leave them after 2 days saying that you now have 5 prototypes, you have 100 ideas in the word format. Please go ahead and do what you have to do. But when I
Mm.
listen to their issues, uh, I can visualize Airtel 2003 2004. I can visualize L'Oreal when we were setting it up.
Sure.
It's the issues are the same uh,
Yeah.
in the basic format. The way it is presented is different. So you
Yeah.
need to really unpeel that onion and then come to the core of it.
Sure.
And the core of it is generally the same. Generally
Mm.
the same. Because we are all human beings and we have the same traits and we all think alike.
Yeah. Same survival instincts as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have some wonderful comments from people who probably know you. Deepak Lokhande says, "I am lucky and proud to know Mr. Kini in person." Akash Guduri says he's happy to be part of this meeting. Sudipto Saha asks a question: what was the trigger to move from finance to customer-facing roles in PNG? It seems it was a pivotal decision.
Well, like I said, it was my aspiration to be the managing director of a organization, a
Sure.
multinational organization, by the age of 40. It was like a goal which I had as a young
Hmm,
kid.
hmm.
When a young kid is about 20, 21, 22. And
Yeah.
then I did my MBA, and then I said I must equip myself to be that MD, what I want to be at
Sure.
40. So my journey
Sure.
was actually looking at the age 40 and that role as a managing director, and not what can happen in between, but the process to from age 25 to age 40 is the input time.
Sure.
So I try to collect a lot of inputs which would give me
Hmm.
the ability and the skill sets for the goal at 40. So
Sure. Sure.
when I was in finance, I had worked in 4 different jobs. Then I worked in marketing and sales. Then
Hmm.
I set up
Hmm.
L'Oreal in India, where I was looking
Hmm.
after marketing, sales, and finance.
Yeah.
And it was giving me the experience
Sure.
which I needed to be a managing director. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would say I did work towards getting it.
Hmm.
I attracted these jobs.
Hmm.
I wanted it, so I attracted it. And and I would be vulnerable. I remember talking to Bharat Patel once. You know, he came into my room and he opened the door. He was, I think, at that stage he was vice president marketing and sales. And then he said, "क्या कर रहा है?" So I said, "Sir, कुछ चल रहा है. I'm trying to do something." So he says, "ये तुम लोग ना फाइनेंस वाले सब 13 पैसा 15 पैसा लेके बैठा रहते हैं." So I looked at him and I said, "But you will not accept us in marketing, will you?" And he
Hmm.
looked at me and he said, "Are you serious?"
Hmm.
I said, "Sir, how can, I mean, we can be serious, but you have to accept us. You will want an MBA with marketing." So I would make such comments. And
Yeah.
a lot of my friends were in marketing. And I would just sit down
Hmm.
with them and try and understand what their job is, what they're doing, why they're doing, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that curious mind was always there. And finally, when Gurcharan
Hmm.
said, raise hands, I raised my
Hmm.
hand. And I still remember the finance VP, uh, a lovely gentleman, Sumit Bhattacharya. He,
Hmm.
he, he called me and he says, "What is this? You want to go to marketing?" So I said, "Sir, if I can get an opportunity, it'll be great." So he said, "But if you don't do well in marketing, I will not take you back in finance." And he said that with a smirk on his face, like he was actually testing me.
Hmm.
So
How
I said,
convinced are
"Sir,
you?
yeah." I said, "Sir, if I don't do well, I will come and ask you for a job. But if you say no, then I will look for another job. But give me this opportunity to try marketing and sales."
Yeah.
And then he said, "Okay, I will talk to Bharat." And then they
Incredible.
too agreed, and I got my job change. And once you
Hmm.
get there, I think you need to be humble, vulnerable, to say, "I don't know enough." I need to
Sure.
learn. When I
Sure.
became area manager for Bombay, Maharashtra, the first 3 months, I would work with people as an assistant to people who are reporting to me.
Mm,
My
mm.
PSIs, they were. I used to work as an assistant to them. I was in Sangli headquarters for those 3 months,
Wow. Mm,
and I went through van sales and everything with assisting them to become to understand sales.
mm.
So I really went through the frontline job in spite of being the area manager for 3 months. And at the month end, I would be the area manager and I would do the monthly meeting. But
Very nice.
it was a nice way of induction into
Yeah.
something which you want to do well about.
Yeah.
And that's why I say
Yeah.
I had some fantastic bosses. All my bosses, touch wood, I had some great guys, and they really, you know, they say that uh, the boss should keep your back, and
Yeah.
every boss of mine, protected me and gave me that space to make mistakes and to perform. I hope I've answered his question.
No, I'm sure. I think there are a lot of comments coming in, and he also already thanked you for this response as well. Vijay Kumar says, "Thank you for giving space to operate." Deepak again says, "I'm the entrepreneur who took lots of learning and advice from Sir." Fraser coach says the research shows that how leaders with exceptional character traits deliver significantly bottom line results. There is also now a way for us to measure character quotient of leaders. We also need to invest on helping leaders with regards to how to help them dial up their character in the moments that matter. Very interesting comment.
Very interesting.
Um, yeah. So I'm very mindful of time for you as well as people who are listening in. I'll quickly transition to a few rapid fire questions and then we'll wrap this up.
Oh, wow.
So
Keep it easy. Keep
nothing.
it easy, Gopal.
So very quickly, a book that changed your leadership game.
Oh, Atlas Shrugged, maybe?
Okay. Okay. If coaching or consulting wasn't an option, what would you be doing?
Playing golf.
Lovely. uh, your daily ritual to stay grounded.
Oh, uh, I have my morning me time,
Mm,
and the me time is my walk.
mm,
I I and meditate. It's about 50-55 minutes of walk, brisk walking. I
mhm,
do
mhm,
about nine and a half thousand to 10,000 steps in that hour. I then
oh, lovely.
meditate for about 15 minutes.
Mm,
It's all in my complex. Uh, of late,
wonderful.
I've started. I mean, I don't know swimming, so I've taken up a coach, and I'm learning swimming.
Mm,
Uh, it's been now 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Uh, I then come back home, and again the me time continues with the newspaper and me, and my breakfast on the side. And my
wow.
breakfast is a whole lot of fruits, and
Mm,
that's the
mm,
time where
mm,
I'm also thinking about the day and planning the day.
mm.
And I also have to slot in every day my time with my grandchildren.
Wonderful.
So that's
Wonderful.
all happening in the mind, uh, and then I spend time uh, for my coaching sessions. I
Sure.
spend time preparing for it. I spend time doing my logs after that
Mm,
and stuff like that.
mm,
So uh, I also keep time free during the day for any request for a call. I have this part of my value system. I don't say no to anybody who wants to talk or wants to speak to me for something. It's
Sure.
always a yes. We look for a okay time between the two calendars, and then we meet. And I keep telling people that I've blocked 40-45 minutes for you. So let's not be in a hurry to finish it, and let's chat. What is it about?
Mm,
So that
mm,
again is
mm.
there. I always talk to people, whoever wants to talk to me. Uh,
Yeah. And thank you. Because of that, this session happens today. So thank you for that.
uh,
And the last question, any hidden talent that people don't know about you?
I'm a terrible golfer. This is. I just read yesterday. Uh, uh, Sunil Gavaskar. He
Mm,
doesn't play golf. Uh, like all the other cricketers who have retired, all play golf. I don't think Sachin
mm,
also plays, but Sunil doesn't play. And he
mm.
was asked why or something like that, and he said, uh, "I always have worked hard for my centuries." We all know that he had 29 or 30 centuries in his career,
Mm,
and he's worked very hard for each of his centuries. And he
yeah.
says, when I play golf, I don't have to work hard for those centuries. I hit them
Mm.
very easily. So therefore, I don't play golf. You know,
Interesting.
very
Interesting.
interesting thought. But other
Yeah.
than that, no, I mean, I don't think there's anything which people don't know about me. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to.
Vijay Kumar says a good actor.
Oh, well, I was part of some plays and stuff like that. So I don't know whether I'm a good actor, but the fact that I haven't got another role tells me that perhaps not.
Well, manifestation, as they say. I mean, if that's
Yes,
what you
yes.
want, you would get it. Wonderful. So before we, wrap up, any parting thoughts for the audience?
I would say believe in yourselves, and be authentic. Uh, don't try to fit into what the world wants you to fit into. Do
Hmm.
what you believe is good for you.
Right.
Uh, when you actually do what you wish to do, you actually create time, and therefore you will never have this complaint that we don't have the time. You will
Yeah.
always have the time because you are doing what you want to do. And I think that's worked very well for me. And I think listen to your heart.
Hmm.
As leaders, we forget and we only listen to our brains and our gut to a fair extent. And in the dialogue between the brain and the gut, the feeble voice of the heart is always lost.
Yeah.
You need to make an effort. Uh, Once you make the effort, you will hear your heart loud and clear. And there's a little coach inside you. He's also a judge at times, but
Yeah.
listen to the coach, not the judge, and you will be
Yeah.
happy. And again, I would say, be happy, count your blessings. If you count your blessings, you'll be happy.
True. True. Practicing gratitude is
Yes,
becoming more and more
absolutely.
necessary.
Absolutely.
Can't agree more to that. So thank you so much, Jagdish, for taking time to talk to
Pleasure.
me and the audience through me. Really appreciate doing this for us. And to all of you listening in to the podcast or are going to catch this up on other mediums later, a big thank you for being there and being part of
Thank you.
this conversation at the Career Shifts podcast. I hope
Thank you.
Jagdish's journey and our chat about embracing change, developing leaders, leaving an impact have sparked some thoughts about your own career path as well. As Jagdish reminded us that in today's world, it's about staying agile, being open to change, and focusing on making an impact. It's not about managing career shifts, but seeking out new opportunities, pushing yourself, and leading with purpose. Whether you're thinking about a new role, switching industries, or mentoring future leaders, the key is to stay adaptable, proactive, and purpose driven. We are in time where the work landscape is changing faster than ever. And as Jagdish and many of our previous guests have shared, thriving in this environment means being ready for change, having a vision, and being bold enough to go after it. I can't wait to share more inspiring stories and practical takeaways in the future episodes. Until then, stay curious, stay motivated, and keep tuning in to Career Shifts podcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. See you soon. Keep moving forward and keep evolving. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.